After another safe week in NFL Survivor polls that saw all of the top 9 most popular picks prevail, we'll discuss and debate the 6 games you should be considering for week 3, and it's coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants.
Michael, it is so good to have you along flying the plane with me back in the old pilot's chair. I'm sure we're going to get some turbulence sooner or later on this Survivor flight, but it's been smooth sailing so far. Although I have to say, I want to hear in the comments anyone who picked Arizona. That looked like that was going to be such a calm, easy, relaxing, no sweat game. And I don't know if you guys can tell, had no gray hair before last week. It was all came from that stupid Arizona Cardinals between prevent defense, ridiculous, terrible penalties, a horrible interception decision by Kyler Murray, and an onside kick. I was stressed out last week.
You think you were stressed out? Guess who I picked? I picked Dallas.
Dow.
Yeah. And, thought for sure, coming off what looked like a pretty decent week 1 performance, they'd go in and come home and do their business. They basically lost that game until the very end. But I'm still alive. Whew.
And, despite our effects on our blood pressure, they're the better pick. They're much better pick than if you went Baltimore, right? Because Baltimore has that so much future value. So we live the fight on another day. Let's look at week 3. There are 6 games we think you should be considering. The Buffalo Bills, massive 12.5-point favorites at home against Miami. Green Bay, 8.5-point favorites on the road at Cleveland. Seattle, 7.5-point favorites at home against New Orleans. Tampa Bay is a touchdown favorite at home against the Jets, and 2 5.5-point favorites on the road. Kansas City against the Giants, and Atlanta playing at Carolina. Kansas City at the New York Giants. It is simple. I am not putting my Survivor life on a winless team on the road who definitely won't have a major offensive weapon in Rashee Rice and might not have Xavier Worthy in this game. I'm out. I'm going to save them for when they are stronger and healthier and that they play, no offense to your Raiders. They host the Raiders in week 7, Indianapolis in week 12. I'm waiting on Kansas City.
Yeah, I think that's the right decision. Although I'm pretty confident Kansas City's going to win this game, but we've got other options. Let's wait till Kansas City is kind of back to full force. And let's face it, this Giants offense has been pretty impressive. At least last week, a little bit scary. Going to be at home, so yeah, let's not touch it.
What do you think about the other 5.5-point spread? Atlanta traveling to Carolina. I got to admit, I'm a little intrigued. What about you?
Yeah, you know what? I really am impressed. Well, and I like Dave Canales. Impressed is the wrong word. I like Dave Canales, Pete Carroll guy, right? They got some offensive weapons now. This, Young has figured out this McMillan kid. Chuba Hubbard obviously had some games late last year. Their defense is atrocious, and Atlanta has, looked pretty decent on the defensive side, and Bijan Robinson is starting to do some stuff. But Atlanta looked has not looked that impressive to me. And again, Dave Canales at some point might be able to put some stuff together. So and again, this game's in Carolina. So I think I'm actually more afraid of this game than the Kansas City game.
I'm interested. You said Atlanta hasn't looked very good. I mean, they beat up on Minnesota. They missed a very makeable field goal in week 1, which would have against the Bucks. It would have sent that to overtime. I mean, this team could easily be 2-0, and I don't know. I'm just not impressed with Carolina. I know there are power teams listings. Carolina is my bottom team in the NFL so far this year. I just have I watched that Arizona game. The Arizona should have blown them out. That should not. If you look at the final score and go, "Oh, that was a really good close game." Those teams are close. Also, Arizona had a ton of injuries to their secondary.
Fair.
at the end of that game, which is what helped. Besides, again, just a lot of sloppy, stupid penalties that had nothing to do with the play. Um, you know, they don't have a lot of future value, Atlanta. They do get Carolina at home later instead of playing a road in week 11. But besides that, not much to speak of. Their pick popularity this week is only 5%. So we say there's three things you should be considering: future value, pick popularity, and chances to win. They've nailed two of the three. My problem is, I want to push that button to say Atlanta, Michael, and I don't trust them, even though I feel like they should win.
Yeah, no, you're right. Their defense looked really good against Minnesota, but don't forget Minnesota is just really playing poor football right now. So I don't know if I want to give Atlanta too much credit for that. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. Carolina might be the worst team in the NFL. That's who we want to pick against. But hey, let's save Atlanta for week 11. You know, I don't have that week in front of me right now.
It's
So
a
again, other options this week and kind of similar dialogue. So maybe let's talk about those games. Real quick plug, folks. If you haven't yet, please smash that like button. Don't forget to share your comments. Subscribe if you haven't done so, and then hit that bell icon so you get the reminders.
We really appreciate it. Looking at week 11, I have it up. If you play Baltimore already or want to save them for another week, it really isn't that great. Buffalo, I probably will burn before that. They're playing Tampa Bay. Green Bay, I may have already used. Um, New England hosts the Jets, so that may be an opportunity to play New England. So there's not a lot of options in week 11. And so, yeah, I think I'll save Atlanta for some of the same reasons I'd be tempted to play them this week, save them that week. Carolina cannot stop the run. So you tend to think that Bijan Robinson should have a lot of fun this week. All right, so we've covered two of the games that neither you nor I are going to go with. Talk about Tampa Bay. I think this is a good, if you just don't have the stones like I don't to pick Atlanta, this is not a bad way to go with Tampa Bay at home facing a New York Jet team that will not have Justin Fields. Looks like Tyrod Taylor is the backup, who's a very capable backup, as backups go. Will step in. What are your thoughts here?
To be honest, Justin Fields scares me. So I actually think the Jets might be a little bit more serviceable with a more, experienced, I won't say proven, but a more experienced quarterback. Aaron Glenn is a great offensive coordinator coach. Now that he's taken over the Jets, we saw what they did, against the Steelers, kept in there in that first game. They've got some offensive weapons, didn't really use them that well this last week. Their defense does not look that good. And you know who does look good right now is Tampa Bay. Baker, Mayfield is making Cleveland look really, really additionally silly for a lot of things that they've done recently. I think this Bucky Irving kid is an upgrade from White, and Egbuka is really filled in nicely for Godwin being out, who actually might be back. Tampa at home, I feel pretty good about this game, but the only thing that makes me a tiny bit nervous is the change to having Justin Fields out, who I just haven't been impressed with.
Yeah, Ibuka, I think this guy definitely will be a talent. But at this stage, I feel more comfortable with Chris Godwin, and I am always nervous. First of all, I don't know if Godwin will play, and even if he does his first game back, how much will he be used? So one thing that's screaming to me is why not just save Tampa Bay to when Godwin is back and healthy? And they've got some great games. They've got a decent amount of future value. Just look at their division. They play New Orleans and Carolina twice, both home and away, and they host New England. So, things to consider. All right. I'd like you to talk about this next game while I, do some wardrobe change. Seattle is 7.5 point favorites against New Orleans at home. Seattle's at home.
Yeah, and Seattle is one of the toughest teams to beat in their home with their home field advantage with that 12th man. And Mike McDonald has, I think, cleaned things up on the defensive side of the ball. But, Sam Darnold just scares me. That being said, this New Orleans team, you talked about Carolina being, the dredge of the league, this NFC South with Carolina and New Orleans at the bottom of them. They don't have a quarterback situation that makes sense. Yeah, they have some other weapons. I think New Orleans is pretty bad. So I like this pick. It's just Sam Darnold just, yeah, I know he had a decent year in Minnesota until the playoffs. It just scares me a little bit.
I'd
What do you think?
appreciate if you would have said you liked this pick for more reasons for the Seahawks than slamming New Orleans. All right, folks, full disclosure. So, I, as a resident Seahawk expert, feel an obligation that if I tell you to pick Seattle, that I won't be wrong. And unfortunately, this is the popular pick, clearly because they don't have as much future value. But here are my concerns about the Seattle Seahawk pick if you're going to pick them in Survivor. First off, you guys heard me talk about week one, right? I want to see what it is, how they are, how good these teams are. Let's talk about New Orleans. I know you just said that they're bad. Everywhere I look, people are ripping New Orleans. I don't get it. I know that they had low expectations, but here's the reality. They played San Francisco and they played Arizona. In both of those games, they had the ball very, very late in the game, like around inside 2 minutes, with a chance to win or go ahead. They didn't quite pull it off, so they lost. I get that both of those games were in New Orleans and they're now playing in Seattle. Spencer Rattler hasn't thrown an interception. The guy has done way better than I expected. So New Orleans is I don't have them at the bottom of my power listings. There's a couple teams I have lower. They scare me a little bit. They have some offensive weapons there. Kamara doesn't look old, which I expected him to look, and they have Alave and Rashid Shaheed, as well as Juwan Johnson is doing great at tight end. I mean, what do you're not buying any of that though, are you?
Well, again, I mean, Seattle's got, one of the tougher places to play, and I think that helps immensely. But yeah, no, I'm not buying that New Orleans is a good team. San Francisco's, banged up, and so, New Orleans could have won that game just because San Francisco is not necessarily grade A. In Arizona, I mean, they're not grade A either. So Seattle's the toughest team that they're going to play in terms of health and readiness for the league, and the game's in Seattle, a tough place to play. So I don't think New Orleans is as bad as Carolina, but
So
Spencer Rattler's going to
you're
probably throw a couple
frustrating me,
interceptions here soon.
put me in a position to slam my Seahawks here. But you just said that New Orleans, played a beaten up San Francisco team. So did Seattle in week one, and they lost. Now, Seattle came back to play a lot better against Pittsburgh. Don't go too crazy on that Pittsburgh game, folks. If you just look at the score and you say, oh, that wasn't close. Seattle had one of the strangest touchdowns you ever will see, very fluky on the kickoff. They kicked the ball off and then recovered it in the end zone. So that's a 7 point swing, rather fluky. Here's my other concern, Michael, and you can tell me whether there's any validity to it. I'm really worried that the Seahawks may look a little bit past this game. And I don't mean psychologically, I mean in reality, because they are missing two key players, one on offense, one on defense. Zach Charbonnet on offense and Devin Witherspoon on defense. Witherspoon didn't play last week, but neither of them practiced on Wednesday. But they play Thursday against Arizona, a division rival. I really feel like they may go, why rush these guys back on Sunday against New Orleans, who's not very good, supposedly? I really worry about them taking them too lightly. And I just will comment, I can hear the people say, oh, it doesn't matter about Charbonnet. They got another running back. It's okay. Charbonnet is so much better at pass protection. I think they're going to miss him if he doesn't play.
Yeah, no, those are all good points. Obviously, you're paying attention to your team better than most. So, folks, you got to listen to that kind of stuff. I'll just add Seattle really doesn't have much future value. So, don't be afraid of using them up. But if you're with Eric, who I think's just a little afraid of his own team here, I get it.
Green Bay, 8.5 point favorites versus Cleveland. Jaden Reed is out. So they're missing a weapon on offense, the wide receiver. But Michael, after 2 games, is there any team that looks better in the entire NFL than the Green Bay Packers? And I'll get you in here first, but look what they did. It's not that they're just 2-0. They beat two very good teams badly, Detroit and Washington. And what happened when the with those teams in their other games? Well, Detroit just dropped 52 points on Chicago, and Washington dominated the Giants, who all of a sudden the week later, all of a sudden threw the ball all over the place. So, I mean, talk to me about this Green Bay team. I mean, some people are saying, "Oh, Super Bowl, Green Bay." I just think after 2 weeks, and it's just been 2 weeks, but they've been very impressive.
Yeah, and the changes they made on the defensive side of the ball, with the addition of Parsons, and they already had a good defense. I just think it just makes them so much better. And Jordan Love is more than just a game manager, but that's all he kind of needs to be with how good this defense is. They're good, and guess who's not? Cleveland is not. Joe Flacco has looked old. To reference, and that's partly because their defense is not what they have been historically, and so he's got to be more than a game manager. We've been talking about New Orleans and Carolina. I mean, Cleveland's right there with them. My only, I guess, concern is, Green Bay might have, um, they have a lot of, well, the week 9 is really where their future value is. And they're playing Carolina at home. You just talked about Carolina. There's not a lot of other good games to pick from that week. And so we got some options here if you want to save Green Bay for week 9. And this game's in Cleveland, but I don't know if that's a problem for Green Bay.
Yeah, so I want to address this future value thing because I've seen some other people who do Survivor content, not as good as us guys. But anyway, and they drop lines like, "Oh, you got to save Green Bay for their future value." Let's put up their schedule on the screen right now, and I defy you to figure out when is all this future value. So they are at Dallas. They have a bye for week 5 hosting Cincinnati. Granted, with Burrow out, but Browning's a capable backup. That's a more favorable matchup than originally thought. At Arizona in week 7, week 8 at Pittsburgh. I don't feel comfortable picking Green Bay until week 9. Now, let's talk about week 9. You guys remember what I said last week? I said I will not pick the LA Rams because I am saving them for week 9 when they host New Orleans. Now, I am fine picking the Rams against New Orleans in week 9. So I'm not going to use Green Bay in week 9. Stafford gets injured, and obviously that would be a mistake, but let's hope that doesn't happen. Then after that, host Philadelphia at the New York Giants, host Minnesota at Detroit, host Chicago in week 14. Now you're looking at waiting until week 14 to use them. So
Yeah.
compare that to like Buffalo in a minute we'll talk about, who has a ton of future value. I don't think future value is a reason not to pick Green Bay this week. So let's talk about Buffalo. Buffalo is 12.5 point favorites versus Miami. This is a game which has a high pick popularity for Buffalo as the highest spread. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it's a Thursday game. Sometimes we get a little nervous about Thursdays, but Buffalo's healthy, and looking phenomenal right now. And one of we're talking about two of the best teams now with Green Bay and Buffalo, and we're talking about two of the not so great teams with Cleveland and now Miami. Miami just looks like they're a mess. I do not like Mike McDonald. I feel like, if you watch some of the shows that he's been on, he's kind of shown that he's just an odd guy. Miami has weapons, and Tyreek had a good week, and A-Chain has been healthy, and so those are the things that make Miami scary. And this is a rivalry game, and we've seen Miami beat Buffalo. Um, so but this game it's in Buffalo, not in the wintertime. So that's when you see Miami really struggle in Buffalo. Um, but I think that you already kind of commented on this Buffalo team's awesome, but let's save them.
Michael, I am going to use Buffalo. I promise everybody in week 3, 4, or 5. And I'm telling you, I'm not going to weaken week 3, but I can use them in week 4 when they have extra rest because they're playing on Thursday uh, against New Orleans. I know I said some concerns against Seattle, but Seattle is not Buffalo. I think that's about as sure win as you can get. Um, or if we have patience, use them in week 5 hosting New England. Just look, I won't go over it now. Look at week 5. Week five's tough. There are not a lot of good games in week 5. So save Buffalo for either week 4 or week 5. If I possibly can, Michael, I'll be waiting for them in week 5. And just so we're clear, your pick for week 3 is.
Well, you kind of scared me a little bit with the Charbonnet and all that kind of stuff, and it's kind of tempting to pick, Green Bay right now when they're solid. But Matthew Stafford could get hurt before week 9, and I really want to have Green Bay then. So I'm going to go with your Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, well, for many reasons, I hope that works out for you. That would be embarrassing if the Seahawks lost at home against New Orleans. I just have to go with my gut in Green Bay. If Green Bay loses, I will not feel bad. I went with what I thought was right and for the reasons I feel good about. It's weird. All 3 weeks this year, I felt really good about my picks. If I go Seattle and they lose, I'll feel terrible because I have this gut feeling of concern for this game. So, all right, everybody. We want to hear from you guys, though. Put in the comment section who your week 3 pick is. I just want to comment. I don't think Seattle is a bad pick. I think a bad pick is Buffalo. Do not use Buffalo this week. And if you have the guts, which I don't, let's see some Tampa Bay and Atlanta folks that wanna go that route. So, all right, everybody, take care. And quick plug. If you are an NFL DFS fan, I am back hosting week 3. I'll put that video on the screen right now. And until next week, where we break down week 4, take care, everybody.
Bye bye.